The Daughter of the Stars Theater presents The Shenandoah Valley, a closer look. What is a commander trying to do in battle? Napoleonic Warfare. We intend to provide more clarity and insight into the tactics and strategies that composed a Civil War battle. We plan to explain the how, what, where, and when these battles were fought, what types of weapons were used, and why the tactics developed fit the capabilities of the weapons engaged. In the American Civil War armies, there are basically three types of units: infantry, which is the primary composition of the army, cavalry, and artillery. When two armies meet, how do they use these different units to try to defeat each other? Each type of unit has a specific role within the army. The infantry is the main bulk of a force. Artillery is the biggest firepower. Cavalry is the speed, reconnaissance, and information gathering of a force. The type of warfare that was taught and practiced at the military academies leading up to the Civil War is referred to as Napoleonic Warfare. These are the same tactics that Napoleon developed and used. The essence of Napoleonic Warfare was that each corps, roughly 5,000 soldiers, was its own mini-army. Two or more corps would make an army. Each corps would have its own infantry, artillery, and cavalry. A commanding general would place the corps under his command side by side, trying to take advantage of the local terrain. He would likely hold a smaller force in reserve behind the main battle line. When engaging in battle in the field in Napoleonic Warfare, the basic formation has the infantry at the front with the artillery behind the infantry. The cavalry would be in reserve, scouting, or on one or both ends of the army. Napoleonic Warfare teaches to concentrate the power of the army to be able to defeat your opponent. So how do you tactically win a battle in Napoleonic Warfare? The idea of Napoleonic Warfare is to extend your line of infantry longer than your enemy's line of infantry. If you can get your army to go around the corner of your enemy's army, a general can do what is referred to as turning the corner of your enemy's line. An army can then do what's referred to as roll up the enemy and push the opposing army off the field, thus winning the battle. This is how a battle is won by maneuver. Another way of winning is referred to as breaking the line. Breaking a line happens one of three ways. 1. One army causes casualties by killing and wounding members of the opposing infantry. The other side is weakened by the loss of the number of infantrymen in the section of the line. The impacted section of the line breaks. The second way to break a line is to cause enough fear that the enemy simply turns and runs away. The third is that one army overruns or assaults the line of the opposing army, thus capturing, wounding, or killing the opposing army in that section of a line. The attacking force seizes control by occupying the section of the line. These are very dynamic situations, and one or all of the ways to break your enemy's line happens in quick succession or at the same time. You will often hear historians or documentaries about the Civil War referring to dangerous gaps in a line. A commander is trying to line up his army to be bigger or of equal size to the opposing army. If a commander's army does not have as many soldiers as his opponent, then the commander spreads out his line. Small gaps of 25 feet up to 100 feet between units are manageable. Gaps of 300 feet or more start to become dangerous. The wider the gap, the more dangerous it is. The danger is that an opposing force can march into the gap and overwhelm a portion of the army. With a wide gap, another unit can simply march into the gap within effective rifle range and engage the opponent. The result is turning the corner of your army and getting the line rolled up or broken. Why is 300 feet where a gap starts to become dangerous? This comes down to the effective range of the rifles and the speed that a unit can march. The effective range is the average range where an average soldier would likely hit the other side. There are exceptions to the range. Units like the burdened sharpshooters, where the qualification for admittance into the unit was that a soldier could place 10 consecutive shots in an 8-inch pie plate at 200 yards. This is roughly equivalent to somebody rated as a sharpshooter in the national match standards today. The burdened sharpshooters would be able to engage another unit at a much further distance than an average unit. At 200 yards, a unit like burdened sharpshooters would be able to engage an average unit and cause significantly more casualties than it would receive. A unit like burdens would cause more casualties because the average soldier in the unit shot better. The average unit's members would more often miss. The weakened line could be broken by an eventual assault. Other ways a unit would become more effective would be to march faster or load and fire faster than an average unit. The South's Orr's Rifles, or the 1st South Carolina Infantry, was one such unit. In the Northern Army, the Iron Brigade was another such unit. The speed a unit can march is an approximately 15-minute mile. Marching on the double quick is a 10-minute mile, or 1 minute to move 500 feet. The fastest infantry unit movement is a bayonet charge. This is done at a relatively close range of 100 yards or less. You out there who are going to say, Pickett's charge was 1¼ miles. Yes, it was. The units in Pickett's charge only ran when they were within about 100 yards, and most were at 30 yards or less. Think of it this way. Run the length of a football field with an axe, then chop down several 2-inch wide trees when you get to the end zone. There may be 300 to 1,000 2-inch trees. The further you run to get to the trees, the less energy you will have to chop the trees down when you get there. A bayonet charge is done at a very close range, and as the final element of an assault to take the other enemy's position by force. Other times, the bayonet charge is used in an act of desperation, as Colonel Chamberlain famously undertook at Gettysburg's Little Round Top. The base strength of the infantry unit is the actual morale of the individuals involved. Do they have the ability to endure the march to the battle? Then have the energy, determination, courage, and proficiency to conduct the battle? The units that are able to do this cause more casualties than they receive, and thus help weaken and then defeat the other army. Managing the battle as it occurs. During the course of an engagement, a commander knows he is going to take losses. This is where a unit as small as a company of 100 men, or up to a corps of 5,000 soldiers, will be held 200 to 300 yards behind the main battle line or in reserve. If a unit takes too many casualties, a commander will relieve that unit by ordering another unit to take the damaged unit's place. The fresh unit will fill the gap created by the relieved unit exiting its place in the line of battle. If a commander sees that part of the opponent's army is weakening, he may order the reserves in to overwhelm that section of the line. The extra troops would end up breaking it or rolling up the opponent's main battle line. A commander would see his line weakening, or the opponent's line weakening, by seeing the line wavering. The soldiers in the affected units would have a difficult time maintaining a straight firing line. This is what the commander is looking for while in the back of the troops observing the battle. These are basic tactical ways of managing and winning a battle. There are many variations, but these are the basics. Artillery is the main firepower of a Civil War army. Artillery has an effective range up to 1.5 miles. In classic Napoleonic Warfare, the artillery is placed behind the infantry where the main assault is going to occur. The cannons are used to literally blast holes in the other side's line so that the infantry can break the opposing line. The artillery would fire on the main line and blast holes in it. If the reserves are used to fill that gap in the first line, the artillery would again blast holes in the reserves, filling the gap. One army would continue this until they ran out of infantry, decided to withdraw, or were overrun by the opposing army. If things go badly, your artillery could run out of ammunition. Your opponent's artillery could inflict more damage on your artillery, or your cannons could blow up by accident. All are conditions that could weaken your lines. Your opponent's infantry could then break and take your lines. We will talk more about artillery tactics in an upcoming video. The ends of your line. A commander is well aware that the other side is trying to do to his army as he is trying to do to theirs. Turn the corner, break the line, etc. A way to make this more difficult for the other side is to place your better units on the ends of your line. A better unit either through speed, cavalry, or firepower and range, artillery. If the others are not available, a good infantry unit would be placed on the end of your main battle line. Cavalry, artillery, units on the end of the main battle line would help extend the effective range of an army's corner. The more effective unit on the corner forces an opponent to march around the end of the army to stay out of the effective range of the better unit. This takes more time. A defending commander can counter the maneuver by moving one of his units to meet the action. The effective unit on the corner can be as small as a single sharpshooter 50 yards off the end of a company, or as big as a full artillery battery on the end of a main line of battle. A general is thinking of all of the above and much more when getting an army ready for battle. When a location for a battle is decided, a commander will place the units under his command to best take advantage of the situation, terrain, and conditions at hand. These are the basics of Napoleonic warfare. We will cover more about the logistics, supply, and terrain an army needs in upcoming videos. Please like and subscribe, and we hope you find your guiding star.